looks like you want to say something.
Comic book reads.
Comic book reads. This one's going to be interesting, especially trying to show some stuff off in this new camera paradigm, but we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, dude. Who's going to go first, dude? I've surprisingly read a lot, but not a lot. It's complicated, but yeah, so, you know.
Well, you sounded off the last time, so I'm going to sound off this time.
Cool.
And then we'll just bounce it one, however we go from there.
Sounds like a plan.
So I know I made some commitments to read some things last time, and I achieved some of it, and I didn't achieve some of it. So I know I was going to. I've started on House of X, Powers of X, Jonathan Hickman, the X-Men stuff. So not a lot to report or tell there. I'm just getting started. I actually took a sidetrack and thought I was going to one of these things on my bookshelf caught my eye. And I thought, oh, let me give this a read. And that is the Powerpuff Girls, the collected Powerpuff Girls classics. I'm collecting the first run that was done through, I think it was DC Comics had the rights then in conjunction with Cartoon Network. And this is reprinted by IDW. And
I have one question.
When
are you going to collect all the pops of them?
I haven't seen Powerpuff Girl pops, actually. Or maybe they came out very early.
Yeah, they're definitely out there, dude. But yeah.
I must do a search because, if they look good, I could potentially do a Blossom Bubbles Buttercup and have a Mojo. And the thing that worries me is pops generally have that wide, big head. And Mojo has the long cone type head. So I don't know how that's going to translate if I'll like that look. But I'll be honest with you, I am looking for decent Powerpuff Girl little action figures that I can add to my collection. I haven't seen anything there noteworthy that I'd like. Okay. So I'm always on the lookout for those. But this was, it reprints and collects their first appearance, as well as the second appearance that were coming out, exclusive DC Comics being printed for Cartoon Network. And the great thing about those is both of those early stories were done by Gennady Tartakovsky, who did Samurai Jack, Dexter's Lab, and all of that, as well as Craig McCracken. So in Craig McCracken, he created the Powerpuff Girls, and his first gigs were working with Gennady on those shows, and then Gennady helped him launch Powerpuff Girls. So those first couple stories are by those two guys working together, and it looks like it's the artist who did the cartoons originally. So those were very cool. Those were very sick. And then as it goes on, the regular writing team and the art team keep it true to form, man. Some of them are very, very different. There's one issue where the girls have to draw a story about their weekend, and it's literally like you can see these cartoonists had this idea. They did the main panel, and then on the blank page they took crayon and they just drew like kiddie crayon pictures, and it was amazing. It just worked for what they were trying to do. And every single volume or chapter in this collected thing is each of the issues that were released, and they were all self-contained little stories, just like the cartoon was. So every little cartoon, each little bit was just its own self-contained little story. Something happens, girls fly in, save the day, blah, blah, blah. And I like it. I mean, if you like the cartoons, this is a bang-on, brilliant representation of the cartoons in a comic book form. So thoroughly enjoyed reading it. Definitely, I recommend it. I think I'll read all 5 volumes of this, so I'm definitely going to pick these up sporadically and read them at home.
Cool. Yeah, dude.
And what did you get to?
So the first one I'm going to bring up it's still my favorite, and that's now Sandman Volume 2, the 30th year anniversary print. I haven't finished Volume 2, but dude, so I got a lot to say, and I want to try and, tailor it off as quick as I can. Otherwise we'll be here all day. But the first note I want to say is that, so obviously Volume 1 I'd read on and off, so it was a reread for me. But Volume 2, like, there's nothing that's familiar to me. Like, and I constantly feel like I have to go back. Like, did I catch that? Did I catch that? And that's both a good and a bad thing. So just one example of anyone out there who's read it, but in volume 1, you kind of, you see Dream, Morpheus, go to hell, and as he's going to meet Lucifer, this random like lady's in a cage, and she's like, you know, Morpheus, please help me, please forgive me. And he's just like, no. And he keeps walking, and you're like, okay, it's just some random soul. And literally the whole volume 2 opens up, and it's Queen Nada, which is this queen of like this like sort of African tribe, and you know, she was so above everyone else, and her and Dream were like almost meant to be together, but she denies him of that, and like he's like banishes her to hell. So it's so crazy how like these little things are like slowly, but as little things piece together, he gives you a whole bulk of other mysteries to go, what the hell's going on? You know? So I mean, I think in volume 2, I've vaguely gotten to see who Desire is. But then the
one of the other endless.
Yeah, and then the other 2 main things that jumped out to me so far, like I said, I haven't finished it, is there's one story that starts where it's clear that this girl is, I think, the Vortex, and it means she's something special. And she's having all these weird dreams, and clearly there's something there, and I don't really know what yet. And then there was also the story with what's his name, Brute and Gob, I think. They're like 2 little dudes in the dream universe, and they go out and it's this homage thing, because they, in a person's mind, they create the original Sandman to like operate while Dream was missing originally. So I thought that was quite clever. But then the one thing that was, it's Gaiman has these ways of just subtly doing like these very like deep stories. And I don't know if there's gonna be some kind of comeback or payback, but it's this idea of this guy sitting back in like the plague days, and he's like, I don't want to die. And then he agrees to meet Dream there every 100 years, and you see how he changes, but he doesn't ever die. And obviously to the average person, you're like, but why isn't this dude dying? So it kind of leaves a lot there. And then right at the end of the panel, it's just like, it hits home, dude, because he's like, I know why you keep coming back. And Dream's like, why is that? And he's like, because you want a friend. And he's like, I am the endless. Why would I want a friend? No. And he walks away, but it's clear that there's some truth in there, you know?
Spot on. Yeah, 100%.
And so that's Sandman Volume 2, and I want to finish it. But I want to say, out of all the reads, dude, I do just want to mention this. Like, as confused as I am, I get so lost in it, dude. Like, it holds for me the most. Like, even if I put it down, I'll actually pick it up 5 minutes later if I've got the time, and I'll keep reading. So I'm really getting entrenched in it. So I'm enjoying it the most, as lost as I am most of the time, because it's just so much he's feeding you.
Going back to what you were saying, I don't know if it was earlier on here or one of the previous video clips that we were just discussing things, but you said that's kind of like the mark of a good writer, someone who can drop tidbits here and there that become relevant later on down the line. All those threads start to intertwine. And I think the second part is just keep you engrossed, keep you hooked, just wanting to turn the page each time to see where this is going. And Gaiman is a master, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, this is all I'll say, because we can jump onto what you did. But this is going to sound so cliche, but reading it in comparison to a traditional superhero comic, I feel like I'm in a dream world. I get very like nostalgic and dreamy and stuff, because the comic is just so out there. Like I said, there's just so much happening, and you got to keep track of it. And you know, the panels jump, and then at a stage you got to turn the whole read. I don't know if that was in volume 1. You're like, what the hell? So I just think it's all captured really cool. And for such an old issue, you know, from the 90s, or the whole run, I think, I mean, it still feels fine. You know, I don't feel like, it doesn't feel dated to me. So maybe a little bit of the art here and there sometimes, but
again, that was just different artists at different times being paired with Gaiman for the overall story. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, so what else have you read?
I read and finished, finally, Sex Criminals Volume 2.
Nice.
Fraction and Zdarsky. So yeah, in one of our clips that's actually up on the channel from a couple of weeks back, I said I'd started it, and it starts kind of where the first one ends off, where, as I said, they escape from these sex police, these time-freezing sex police kind of guys, but not real cops, just other people who have that ability, know how to manipulate this stuff and try to regulate them and get them to kind of follow set rules, laws that they want to put down. And then the book, dude, it takes a turn that I didn't expect or see, especially mostly focused on the relationship of the two main characters. You know, I think he replicates life quite nice, or imitates life very nicely in the second volume, where sometimes you get these relationships that start out quite frantically and frenetically, and that's what happens in the first volume. These two meet each other, and it's like these two things just explode together, and they go on this like whirlwind first thing in the first book. And then here, it's almost like certain things of the relationship hit home. They start dealing with certain personal problems that they've both got, and it impacts on their relationship. And yeah, and I must say, the way that to their credit, they got me to fall in love with these characters in volume 1, so that now in volume 2, when the roller coaster's going down and you're starting to see what's happening to them and as a couple, etc. And I was like, no, don't do that, no. Or you're like, why are you doing it, you idiot? Can't you see what's happening? And then literally found myself hoping, yearning, wanting them to almost correct things or kind of get back on track relationship wise and that. So brilliant writing. He got me hooked on them, and he got me screaming and cheering for them all through the second volume. So it's still good. It's still enthralling, and it's got me hooked. But this one was a way where the first one, the roller coaster went up and then kind of went down at a fast, frenetic pace. All the stuff was happening. This one, it's right, an emotional roller coaster where it's like, oh, it's so sweet. No, oh, no. And then, yeah, it also ends off on a pretty hectic note where it's almost like he's gearing it up. These guys they take the fight to these time cops. And right at the end of this, it's almost like the time cops have realized that they're bringing the fight to them, and they're like, okay, it's on now. So I'm anticipating the third volume. Things are going to come to a head. So I'm excited to read that. Looking forward to that too. But so far, as I can say, Sex Criminals is spot on. Brilliant read.
Nice. Cool. So do you want me to jump on my next? So I went back to an original commitment. So I'm back at 7 Soldiers now. For those who didn't see the previous thing. So I only read one of the issues, and I don't know if you recall, was the Zatanna issue. So I was... It
was up next from last time.
Yeah, so I was pretty stoked and excited for it. And dude, you might have mentioned this about how we were both intrigued because Grant Morrison, in his spare time, he's got magic as a hobby.
Yeah. And he's actually like a proclaimed like something level wizard, sorcerer, warlock, something like that. And it was like parallels to Alan Moore, because Alan Moore also claims to be a something level warlock too. I don't know.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that deep. But, dude, so I don't know. It's something I actually got to check. I've been slack on. I don't know if there's different artists and different like assistant writers, or if it's all Morrison. But even if it is, their research shines through in these small weird things, and it's hard to explain, but like these characters, and it all seems accurate to like I don't know, it fits in its place. But what's really cool, and I actually think you might be keen to read this, even if it's just this issue, but it's such a cool but different take. Not different, but it's a cool take on Zatanna. So it opens, and she's sitting at what seems like an AA meeting out of all things, and she's like in a leather jacket, very like Jessica Jones sort of looking. Yeah. And basically it seems like it's for all kind of people with powers or whatever that are struggling, and clearly it puts you in this position where she's put outside of everyone's like, oh, you the little Justice League sweetheart, what do you have to complain about? And daddy's given you everything, and then she takes you on this whole like story that just goes fucking south. There's no other way to she's like, she even says then like, just let me finish. And I don't want to go too into it, but like she takes a bunch of people with her and they start the seance. And at the same time, she's telling multiple stories. It is a bit confusing, but she goes into like this realm and these people like falling through. And it actually reminded me a little bit of Sandman or like Doctor Strange, the film, where they're like going through these and they're falling through and they're seeing themselves at a different time simultaneously. It's such a like an acid trip basically. But then it switches and it gets a bit deep. And she said, because she's on the road being a magician the whole time, and she spoke the words backwards, that she just wants Mr. Perfect, dude. And it just shows the next panel, and it's like the herald of apocalypse is her perfect man, and it gets so dark, and you're like, what?
Wow. Wow.
And it all just goes to shit. And eventually, it's like this panel where they snap out of the seance like thing, and all of them are skulls except for her.
Jeez.
Dude,
wow.
So,
Okay.
And I feel like I still missed a few things, but yeah, that's like like the most of it in a crux. But yeah, dude, it's like I want to read more now, and I still want to see how she's going to fit into the Seven Soldiers, because a lot of the other characters, they left you going, okay, it looks like they're going to team up, but this was very self-contained. I didn't see how she was going to join any of the team. But yeah, dude, it was. I mean, what I've explained to you is right up my alley. So yeah, I'm a fan so far, dude. It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, man. From my knowledge of Morrison, like you say, because he's a practicing magician, warlock, whatever it might be, and I know that he's also dabbled in psychedelics and the likes thereof before getting to writing comics. I'm not surprised, if you like. If anyone can bring trippiness to a story, it's Grant Morrison.
Yeah. And
he's done it on a few of his other stories, like the Doom Patrols and Animal Mans and whatever. There have been the Invisibles. He's had a lot of issues that are just so tripped out, man, where people are like, what did I just see? What are you going on about? I'm glad you're enjoying it. I was hoping that he would bring that same level of just way out there psychedelic take on magic and nail it with this. So I'm glad that you're digging it.
Yeah, thanks, dude. So have you ever read anything else that you've read?
Yes. Stuff that I can talk to. Sorry, I'm just having a little bit of a issue here with one screen. But stuff that I don't only just want to talk to what I read, but punt these things too. I'm going to hold up to the one is this collection of Marvel. I think what do they call it? They called it the Ultimate Graphic Novel Collection. That was done by Eagle Moss or Jacqueline, depending on. I think Eagle Moss is the main publisher. And basically, what these things are is they collect classic Marvel stories, and came out years ago, and they used to release, I think, 2 issues a month, and you'd subscribe, and they'd send it to you in the post, and blah, blah, blah. And then, in the height of this one, DC came out with their hardcover graphic novel collection over here, the DC graphic novel collection, and they were also, and what's nice is on the spines, if you get the whole collection, it makes all the spines come together to make an overarching picture. Same with Marvel, etc. I think DC did a little bit better because DC actually had the forethought to actually put the name, the title of the book on the spine, and Marvel didn't do that. So when your whole Marvel collection's there, you don't actually know what you have to pull the book out to look at its cover to see what it is, push it back in. Whereas DC, you can just look at the spines and you know what the stories are. But for anyone who wants to start out and get into it, in my humble opinion, I think, especially in the early issues, maybe for Marvel up to 60 or 80, they've pretty much nailed it in terms of their basic best stories that they had, going all the way from the 60s, Stan Lee, Ditko, all of that, all the way through to recent stories being done by some of the guys like Hickman and Fraction and all of them. So the one that I had here that I picked up, and it's one of my all-time favorites, going back to Neil Gaiman. It's Neil Gaiman's 1602. And the basic premise is he kind of says what happens if these characters that we know and love, like Spider-Man, Captain America, all of them kind of came out in Old English times in 1602. And they even kind of took the mickey out of it in that one episode of The Big Bang Theory where Neil Gaiman meets them in a comic book store.
Okay, yeah.
And they're talking about good reads, and he says, oh, actually, Neil Gaiman did a good story for Marvel called 1602, and Sheldon looks at him quite derisively and goes, well, let me guess, so everyone thinks that the X-Men are witches. And he goes, yes. And that's how he does it. It's like these guys are born with these powers, and they're seen as witches or warlocks or whatever it is. But, dude, some people don't like it because it's dated in 1602 England. And he writes the language and everything accordingly. He's a fan of that Shakespearean era. So he does write it like that. But the story, the overarching story, and the twist as to what's happened, what's caused all of these things, these events, I can vividly remember at least 2 distinct times throughout the book where Neil Gaiman gives you the answer. He puts it in front of your face. And only at the very end, when the story's coming together, he references back to those earlier ones, and they redraw those same panels, and you see it, and you go, oh my God, how did I miss that?
Nice.
So it's one of my all-time favorites, just for that twist that he literally put in front of your face, and you just don't see it, you don't pick it up. And I like it. It's one of my good reads. Andy Kubert does the art, so very, very cool. And this one over here is Superman, Batman, called Public Enemies. It was written by Jeff Loeb and the art by Ed McGuinness. And this is one of my favorite all-time Batman, Superman stories. It was a title that came out early on DC's thing, didn't really do much, and then it got parked as they do. And then Loeb had this idea, and they kind of said, go, run with it, do what you want to do. And the thing that I love about the story is he juxtaposes the two very, very well. The wholesome Boy Scout in Superman, and you see it in his monologues, bubbles or text on the side, his perception of a situation, how he sees it and what he wants to do to get through the situation. And then they juxtapose that to Batman's thoughts, processes, and the darker take to it, the more, even at times, looking at Superman and going, oh, God, the Boy Scout makes me sick sometimes. And, you know, Batman can see where the situation's going, and Superman's trying to nullify or calm everyone down, and Batman's like, oh, God. And, you know, just the way he wrote the two of them, the banter between them, you really do get a sense of the respect and the way that they both really care about each other. That you can see that behind the capes and the costumes, they really are best friends. It's enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, the series, whether you get in the Marvel one or the DC, I think they really nailed it in terms of gathering up all the really critical, good stories that you should read. So, and they were well priced. So where sometimes graphic novels are going for 200, 300, 400, these are around 150.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, dude. I don't know if it's the same in the States and the UK and stuff, but in South Africa, as a point of entry and just accessibility, I think the runs that you just showed are really cool for people to get into, and they can collect something that's complete, and it can catch you up on a lot of information, like a lot of stories. So it's really not a bad idea.
Yeah, so I just thought I just wanted to punt those, because I see them floating around on the Facebook channels and the Facebook groups, guys trying to sell their collections, or they've got extra books, and if people can grab them and pick them up at a good price, go for it. Really recommended.
Dude, so I don't know if you're okay with it. I'm going to jump into the last read I did.
Okay.
So this is giant size Nightcrawler. This is a new issue that I picked up. You were actually with me when we went to the comic book store, and dude, so I left this last for a reason, because I got such torn, mixed feelings about it.
Okay.
Like it's Hickman did the story. And I was very underwhelmed, dude. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Dude, like, so it's and again, when I did my research, I think this was a one shot, but I don't know if it is. It does have sort of a complete ending, but just a very like, oh, okay, it's over now. But the story title is called Haunted Mansion, and I just want to upfront say, like, I thought the art and the pacing and let me just show you some for the fun of it. I mean, sorry, bending the comic, yeah, but it it's exactly what I would expect from a Nightcrawler title. But the story, man, it just let me get back into it. But just the characters that tag along with Nightcrawler in the sort of adventures. Magic is one of them. And then the characters I'm not really familiar with. I think it's a guy called Cypher and another guy called Eyeboy. The dude's literally got eyes all over him and he sees everything from different perspectives and stuff the whole time. And Lockheed. And
oh yeah, he's dragon.
Yeah.
Little purple dragon.
And so, and like I said, the title's called Haunted Mansion, and they teleport through into the Xavier school, and it's all like run down and got plants growing all over it, and they're kind of talking about what it used to be, and then I don't know, dude, they get like sucked into this weird, like also like trippy dream kind of world that seems haunted, but yeah, and it just, I don't know, like eventually they solve the little mini mystery, but there's a few things, and I know I'm probably being anal about it, but Nightcrawler is positioned as this team leader, and by default, that's just not his character. Nightcrawler is an underdog. He is the guy that comes out of nowhere and does, and is willing to sacrifice something, but he's not like this confrontational, like, okay, go there, I'm Batman. It's bad example, but he's not exactly a Magneto, kind of character. And they kind of play him out as that. Like, he's like, sort of like cocksure and like, like confident. And I just didn't see the Nightcrawler I know. And, it's fair enough if you start the story in his character and then he progresses and then mans up when he has to. That's a different thing to me. But
yes, definitely. Coming of age type story.
Yeah, it just feels like, because this is a title, he was just all of a sudden there, And there was an older title called The Amazing Nightcrawler. It was also out a year or two ago. That. And also he was in this position where he was a celebrity and, like he's coming to terms and he kind of got to his head. And man, I don't know, dude. I was so hesitant to say what I'm about to say in the podcast, but like it's reaffirming why I want to write a Nightcrawler story, because I'm not reading what out there, what I want. So I feel like it's like, fine, I'll do it myself, But again, it's proper arrogant, dude, because I'm not a writer. So, but I want to give it a shot. But I'm keen to see what other people out there thought. So if anyone sees this video, I'm keen to see what they thought about it, because it's a pretty new title. It just came out. So yeah, and that was my last read, man.
Okay, nice. I'm a bit surprised and shocked. Yeah, it could have been hit and miss. Hickman would have either written him the way you would have liked or different, and it looks like you went in a different direction. So,
beep, beep, beep.
So, if you liked what Mark and I were talking about here, or just like our content in general,
please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more videos.
And yeah, do us a favor and find us on the social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the next video.